Hello, hello. My name is Jody Scholes. I am your instructor for today. And I am so glad that you're here. Uh, so glad that you are here. And it is a time where if you are listening to the sound of my voice, you are sending a signal to the universe that you are ready. You are ready for a shift in your experience of being a licensed massage therapist. You are actually already a licensed massage therapist because it is you're on your path. So you feel it, you are when you do work, it comes through you. And now we've just got a little logistical issue of passing this test. Yeah. And you know what? If it was easy, everyone would do it. But this is going to be such a great feeling of accomplishment for you. And geez, I just want to say thank you for letting me be a part of your journey. And thank you for showing up because this world really does need your touch. I've been a licensed massage therapist for 26 years. I still practice. I am an author and a speaker, but I keep coming back to the treatment room because it makes such a profound difference in people's lives. And no one has the touch that you have. No one, not me. Your clients can't come to me because you have something unique to give them. And in the way that I was taught about massage therapy is that each and every person on your massage table is there by divine order. And so what does divine order mean? Divine order means that it is no coincidence. It is on purpose, with a purpose, for a purpose that is sometimes far beyond relieving them of their pain. And here's the fun part, that divine order means either you have something to give to them or they have something to give to you. Yeah. So we never know how that universe is going to bless us. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your intentions, for setting the intention of passing the mblex. And so I want to set an intention for today's class. Today, we're going to be talking about what is the mblex. I'm going to do that for a couple of minutes. Just so a lot of you have already taken the mblex, and God bless you for coming back and, being persistent. I really appreciate that. Some of you have not taken the mblex. And so I want to just frame in some of the fun facts about the mblex. The next part, the biggest part of our class, is the instruction. And today we're going to be, let me slow down talking. The biggest part of our class is going to be about the instruction. And the instruction today is one of the categories of the content outline for the mblex. And my class is called Navigating the Body. But it's an orientation to the anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology categories of the content outline. You may or may not have seen the content outline. I will post it in the patron site again. What I'm referring to is the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards content outline. So there's a federal entity called the Federation. It's where you apply to take the mblex. And they have a content outline of what's on the mblex. So my classes are based specifically on that. I'm not teaching to the test, but I am your guide as far as what's on the test and how to approach the test. So part one, we talk about the test, what it is. Part two, our largest segment is the instruction. And then part three, you get to dissect questions. Yeah, we're going to go over, I have 5 or 6 questions prepared for you today. And we're going to dissect these questions. And here's the fun part. You'll probably see these questions again. If you decide to go and do the online learning, which is to go into the online classroom and watch the full 1-hour presentation on navigating the body, there's a quiz that follows that. And these questions have been pulled from the quiz. So you'll get a little sneak preview to that. All right. So thanks again for being here. Let's jump into the what is the computer adaptive test? And what is a computer adaptive test? I would love to have you raise your hands, but I can't see you. So, and that's okay. I'm not asking you to turn on your cameras. The computer adaptive test is the style of test. Just like we have multiple choice, we have fill in the blank, we have essay. The mblex is, as you know, a multiple choice test. You're going to have 4 possible answers. And that's lovely because it can jog your brain, right? As far as, okay, what is this? Now, what happens with the mblex is that because it's an adaptive test, that means that if you get a question right, it is actually going to give you the next question and make it a little harder. It's adapting to you, to your test-taking capacity. The goal is to score 630 points. How do you do that? We don't know. Each question is worth a different point. So the easy questions are worth a little less. The hard questions are worth a little more. And so if your test questions are getting harder, that's actually a good thing. That's actually positive, because that means you're answering some of the questions correctly. So just breathe into those tougher questions. The test is designed to get you to the highest level in each category that you can achieve. You're not meant to answer the really tough questions correctly. We're meant to find that cap and to make sure that you're competent in each of the categories. And so that ends up working out to your advantage to a certain degree. Now, again, it can seem pretty intimidating when you're getting these questions. You can't go back. You have to progress forward. You've got this 2-hour time limit, which ends up being about 1 hour and 50 minutes by the time you actually start the test. So as we go through this course, as we go through this mblex review course, I am going to give you some insights into the test with the specific idea, with the specific intention that you understand certain aspects of this test before you take it. This is going to give you the ability to stay calm, or to at least come back to a calm place, because it's challenging. Any test is hard. I bet you, when's the last time you had to renew your driver's license? Think about that, right? All right, some of you, maybe you haven't had to renew your driver's license, but a few years ago when I renewed my driver's license, I had to do the driving test. What? Can you imagine? Say you went to your local DMV and you had to do the driving test to get your license. Oh my goodness, I could tell you so many funny stories about that, and I will sometime. But I was nervous. I've been driving since, for 30, 40 years. Well, not 40, but, over 20 years, over 30 years. And I was nervous. I drive every day, almost. And I was nervous. So it's normal. My point is that it's normal to be a little nervous at a test. So just anticipate it, roll with it, do a dance with it, and be like, oh yeah, this is normal. Okay. And you actually get some benefit from those nerves because your endocrine system kicks in and it gives you a little juice. It gives you a little epinephrine, gives you a little charge. It's like, all right, you're actually going to be thinking sharper. I promise. I promise. You might feel like you're scattered and like, oh my gosh, but just know that what is happening physiologically in your body is serving you well. All right, so that's my first few minutes on what is the Massage and Bodywork Licensing Exam, what type of test it is, and what you can expect. So let's move into our content for today. which is navigating the body. Love this. And if you've been with me before, you might recognize some of the content. If you're joining me for the first time, I'm going to try and get us to a place where you can see the whole screen. There we go. That should be good. All right. So this is navigating the body. The images that you'll see are from a lovely book called Trail Guide to the Body, and they've been used with permission. Thank you very much to Trail Guide for the Body. And here we go. So we are going to start by identifying different regions of the body. And some of these will look familiar. Some of these might be new. I'm going to use my cursor to go ahead and point those out. So let's look at this thoracic area of the body. Cervical, the cervical spine, the thoracic spine, the lumbar spine, the sacral region. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar. Now, for some of you, you may have been given a mnemonic device to help remember. In the chat box, if you're free to chat, go ahead and write in how many cervical vertebrae are there? And I'll get back to you on that. So cervical vertebrae, how many cervical vertebrae? Ooh, Chatrice jumping right in there. You got an answer. Very good, Charla. You chilling out today? All right, Zoom user, you don't have a name, but you can chime in too. Yeah. So in the cervical spine, let's see if I got one more. Oh, there you go. Yes. You'll see the answers coming up. Yep. In the cervical spine, there are 7. Yes. And I like to think of the vertebrae of the spine as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So in an ideal world, you might eat breakfast at 7 a.m. Not on a Sunday, but if you might eat breakfast at 7 a.m., there are 7 cervical spine, 7 cervical vertebrae. So if you're thinking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what time do you eat lunch? How many thoracic vertebrae are there? Thoracic vertebrae. Lynn's chiming in there with the number. Oh, very good, Lynn. Awesome. Yes. Thoracic vertebrae, it's the long part. You got a few ribs, you got a few. Yep, there you go, Charlotte. Got it. Oh, who else, Chatrice? Yep. Excellent. I love to see these answers. There are 12. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Breakfast is the cervical spine. That's 7 vertebrae. Thoracic is 12 vertebrae. Not all of them have ribs, right? Got a couple floaters there. And then lumbar. How many lumbar vertebrae are there? So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What time do you sometimes eat dinner? Especially if it's a blue light special. Yeah, there we go. You guys are so good. Trey, you're on the board with 5. Yeah, Lynn, yes. Charlie, yes. Excellent. 5. There are 5 lumbar vertebrae. So cervical, it looks like you guys are very familiar with those terms. Let's go ahead and go to some of the others. So the cranial region, and we like to see the scapular region, these cranium, cranial, scapular region. Acromial refers to the acromion process, right? We're also talking about the sacral region, that is your sacrum. And the pelvic region is the entire pelvic bowl, right? So we've got gluteals, we've got carpals. We're going to go through the pectoral region, axillary. Axillary, I'm dusting off some brain cells here for you now. Axillary is your armpit. Completely random. I'm sure it has something to do with the Latin. The axillary region. The brachial region refers to the brachial plexus. So it might sound like your bronchi, but it is not. It is brachial. It refers to the brachial region, and it's that nerve bundle that comes right down the arm. Rarely will you see cubital, or intercubital, but that's the elbow. Obviously facial and mandible. We've got the abdominal region, the inguinal ligament, gives us a clue on the inguinal region. Pubic, femoral, femoral, the femur is the long bone of the body here. And then we're leading itself to the femoral region. Patellar, dorsal, and plantar. Now I've circled dorsal because it's the dorsal side of the foot and the dorsal side of the hand, right? So it's the top. I don't know if you can still see me, I don't think so, but it's the top of the foot. And our next slide is going to point that out. So you may be familiar with the anatomy of a dolphin, but if not, now you are. The long pointy fin on the top of the dolphin is the dorsal fin. Oh, good. Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate that. Good to know. All right. So the long pointy fin on the top is actually called the dorsal fin. And that's a great way to remember, like the top of your foot. And you can imagine a dorsal fin coming right out. It's the dorsal side of your foot. It also lends itself to dorsiflexion. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later in movements. But dorsiflexion of the foot involves that dorsal side. So it's the top of the foot and the top of the hand. So back to regions of the body, we've already talked a little bit about this. Axillary, brachial, cubital, all in the upper parts of the body. The brachial region identifies with this brachial plexus. And that's that nerve bundle right here. It's under the scapula. And sometimes we have brachial plexus syndrome, which is a pathology where the muscles or an injury have compressed this brachial plexus. And what ends up happening is it sends signals all the way down the arm. Sometimes that can be numbness and tingling in the fingers, especially in the pinky and ring finger, although that's other pathology as well. But just know that the brachial plexus refers to this brachial region. That was a little quick. This brachial region under the clavicle, and it affects the nerves all the way down the arm. All right, let's go through some planes of movement. Again, dusting off some brain cells here. It's in there. My job is to bring that information that's all the way back here to bring it right here. All right, so the sagittal plane. Let's take a look at the sagittal plane. So the sagittal plane is the one that cuts you in, that actually divides us in half. I like to think of it as like kind of riding on a saddle. It sounds the same as sagittal and saddle. So if you were riding on a saddle, that saddle would actually be able to divide you left and right. The frontal plane, easy to remember, right? Divides the front from the back. The frontal plane divides the front from the back. The transverse plane divides us top to bottom. Okay, so transverse, you'll see here on this example, the transverse plane gives us top and bottom. Now it's a little bit different in an animal. We still have these words that refer to, and you'll see them later, that refer to a human body, but more often they're used with animals. And that's the cranial, refers to the front end, the cranial end. If we were doing cat-cow on the yoga mat, the cranial would be the front end, the caudal would be the back end. And then you also have the dorsal. So on a horse or on an animal like the dolphin, like a horse, it would be on the top. And then the ventral is on the bottom. Making sense? Good. All right, and down here to superior and inferior. We have dorsal and ventral, which looks like superior and inferior, but really we start to talk about the anatomical position of the body. Superior up, inferior down. Cranial up, caudal down, or front end and back end. Yeah. And so cranial and caudal usually have to do with clavicle is the cranial end, caudal would be the umbilicus or the belly button. Anatomical position is facing front, feet hip width apart, palms facing forward. From anatomical position, there is a midline. Medial, closer to the midline. Lateral, farther from the midline. When there is a question about what is medial and what is lateral, we have to remember from anatomical position. The question is almost always from anatomical position. And so that is not with our hands down or out or up. It is our hands are forward, we are facing forward, and we are at the midline of the body. That also refers to superior and inferior, up and down. Proximal and distal. So this is directions of the body. Proximal is normally up. It's away from. Distal, farther away from. So midline of the body. Proximal is up and towards, usually referring to long bones. Distal, lengthened, away from. The wrist is distal to the shoulder. The shoulder is proximal to the wrist. Likewise, the ankle is distal to the hip. The hip is proximal to the ankle. Right, I'm gonna pause here for a second because I feel like we need a little, maybe I'm gonna pause here. There we go. And where's my, let's stop this. How you guys doing? Doing all right? I know we cruise through this information and sometimes it can be a lot, but I know you're hanging in there. All right, so just want to say, hey, doing a good job. All right. Next slide. Movements of the body. Extension of the fingers. Flexion of the fingers. Extension, flexion. Opposition. Thumb and finger are in opposition. Flexion, extension. Here's one that's a lot of fun usually for you. Abduction and adduction. AB, abduction. Away from the midline of the body. Abduction, image 1.14, right here. Abduction. So normally referring to legs, you're abducting the legs. By comparison to adducting, ADD, adduction, adding to the midline of the body. Adduction, bringing them back in towards the midline of the body, adduction. Medial rotation of the shoulder, image 1.15. That is from the external. So if you place your elbow right next, if you're not driving, place your elbow right next to your gut, right next to your side. Tuck it right in there. Bring your hand out. So your hand is out towards the wall, or I'm trying to imagine where you are, but your elbow is in, your arm is out. Bring that hand toward your belly button. That is medial. It is medial. Why is it medial? Because you're adding to the midline of the body. So you're bringing that in, you're adding it. Medial rotation of the shoulder. Likewise, the opposite direction, lateral rotation of the shoulder. Elbow is stuck to your side. So when you get this question on the exam, stick your elbow in your side and make the motion, either medial rotation or lateral rotation of the shoulder, to determine the best answers to your question. Now, rotation, we hear that. Medial rotation is one movement. Rotation is a different movement. Look at image 1.18 here in the lower right-hand corner. Rotation of the spine. So even sitting, wherever you are, rotate the spine. So we're turning that spine. This is not medial or lateral rotation. It is just rotation of the spine. Let's take a look. We got some chats. Oh, you're not able to see. Someone's not able to see. I can't see anything. No pictures. Okay, hold on. Let's go ahead and recalibrate. Thanks for letting me know, guys. How's that looking? Shoot me a note in the chat, and that way I can see. All right. Jessica, did you have another question? Okay, good. Everyone now? Just want to make sure, Jessica, Zoom user. Okay, Jessica, you can see. Excellent. Thanks so much. Thanks for letting me know. All right. Let's continue along. So here's an example of abduction and adduction. Abduction away from the midline of the body, adduction to the midline of the body. But take a look at this image right here of our young lady adducting the hip. She crosses the midline of the body. Uh-oh, Zoom user, not able to see. Okay, good to know. I'll recalibrate in just one moment. Oh, okay, very good. Feel free to log in and log out again. Sometimes as your signal is strong and weak, sometimes the images will come and go. So I'll tell you what, let me stop this share for just a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and hide my video, which will maybe allow you to get a little bit more juice on your side too. All right. So let me know when it's done. Give me the thumbs up when you've got the image. So just take a peek though at this adduction of the hip, crossing through the midline of the body. Okay, so that it's not just adding the two legs together and it stops at the midline of the body. You can actually cross through, and that's still considered adduction of the hip. So in sports, for example, soccer, there may be a movement that is adducting the hip. All right, you're with me. All right. So we've covered these movements. Let's go ahead and do a few more vocabulary terms with images, and that is shoulder circumduction. Circumduct your shoulder. Can you do that right now? So it's a great big movement, circumducting, and it is either forward or backward. That happens at the shoulder. It's either a big movement. You can also do a little movement, circumducting the shoulder. Circumduction of the shoulder, forward and backwards. There we go. Good. All right. Beautiful. Great. Looking like everyone can see us now. All right. Shoulder circumduction. Now, let's move along to image 1.20, lateral flexion of the neck. So again, lateral flexion, it's going to be from the midline of the body, right? So lateral going out, and that is either left or right. Excellent. So glad. Good, you guys can see. All right. Elevation of the scapulas. Elevation of the scapulas. Image 1.21 right here. Elevation of the scapulas. Depression of the scapulas. Depression of the mandible. Opening the mandible. Opening the jaw. Remember the TMJ, the temporomandibular joint, is an anatomical location. We have to add pain, dysfunction, syndrome, TMJ dysfunction, TMJ pain to categorize what we're talking about. All right, depression of the mandible. Very good. Now let's talk about supination of the forearm. So let's imagine you're holding a doorknob, and we're going to supinate the forearm, opening up the palm, and as if I was holding a bowl of soup, right? So in the movement, I move into a position where I'm supinating the movement, holding a bowl, holding a bowl of soup. Supination, right? Now, on the treatment table, in supine position, is that face up or face down? Stick it in the chat. Face up or face down? Supine position. All right, we're going to move over while you answer. We'll move over to pronation. I like it. I like it. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, face up, face up, face up. I love it. Nice. Good. Good. Shatrice. Yes. Zoom user. Mwah. Lynn. Yes. Exactly. Good, good, good. Face up, supine, right position. Good. Pronation of the forearm is moving from supine, palm down. Pronation, palm down. Supination, bowl of soup. Pronation, palm down. Moving, that is the movement. Prone position on the massage table is what position? Face up or face down? Right. Put it in the chat. I know you're going to get it. Boom, boom, boom. Yes, face down, right? Because when we're face down, our palms are normally down. Imagine laying face down on the table and trying to have your palms up. That's not going to work, right? Right. Jessica, yes. Charlie, yes. Shatrice, yes. Lynn, yes. Good. Zoom user, I think you were first. Good job. All right. Excellent. Next slide. Elevation and depression of the scapula. Very straightforward, right? Moving up, moving down. So we've demonstrated each of these movements of the body. Let's just take a quick look at the scapula. Since we've talked about elevation and depression, just want to remind you that the supraspinatus, we have, how many rotator cuffs are there? We have a few pictured here, but how many rotator cuffs? Yes. Yes, Lynn. And who can tell me the acronym? Yes, Zoom user. Give me the acronym for our rotator cuffs. Do you remember? Somebody's going to put it in the chat, but we're going to go ahead and talk about supraspinatus. Lives right in here in this little nook. Yes. Oh, somebody's got it. Yes, Charla. Sits. S-I-T-S. All right. So one of the S, supraspinatus, lives right here above the spine of the scapula. So this is the spine of the scapula, sits right in here. So the infraspinatus lives actually technically in the infraspinatus fossa. That's the pink that you see here. Very good. We also have subscapularis, so S-I-T-S, right? So supraspinatus, infraspinatus. I don't think I have any more. Okay, I don't. Infraspinatus, but subscapularis. And what's the fourth one? What's T? I know you know it. I know you know it. Make sure you give me both words. Boom. Teres minor. Yes. And teres minor lives right over here in that little nook on it. Typically, you will not have to identify anything more than the names of the and the general locations of your rotator cuffs. You won't be asked to pick out rotator cuffs. All right, a few more movements of the body. And then when we have about 10 minutes left, we'll move into dissecting questions that are specifically related to this information. All right, movements of the body, image 1.25. What you got for me? We're going to talk about inversion and eversion here. Inversion and eversion. In image 1.25, what are we doing? Inverting or everting? Yeah. Oh, this is elementary for you guys. I love it. Yes. Inversion, inversion, inversion. Yes, you can see, right? Turning that foot in. If you are sitting and you are able, go ahead and invert your feet. Invert those feet. So you're turning, you're rolling out to the outside of your foot, that arch, the The midline arch is moving up. And so see if you can evert your foot, bringing the outside of the foot up. Can you evert your foot? A little bit more difficult, right? So of an inversion and eversion in that movement, if someone sprains their ankle, do you think they inverted their foot or everted their foot? Like if it's an inversion or eversion sprain, yes, exactly. Thank you. Guys are getting this all right. Patrice, Zoom, Lynn, yes. I'm sure you guys got this. So yeah, so typically a sprain or a strain is the foot has, it's an inversion sprain. So they've rolled their ankle, right? They've gone over because that's the easier movement for that joint to make. All right, 1.27, still staying with the ankle here. We're pressing down a gas pedal, we're pulling up a gas pedal. Pushing down a gas pedal, pulling up. So remember we talked about the dorsal fin? These are examples of plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. Image 1.27, going to give you the tougher one first. You're pressing down on the gas pedal. What is that? What type of flexion is that? Boom, boom, boom. Lynn, Shatrice, yes, plantar flexion. Excellent. Why is it plantar flexion? Why isn't it just flexion? So plantar flexion is actually using the plantar muscle that's on the bottom of the foot, right? Plantar, and we're planting, if we were going to plant a seed, we're going to squish it into the ground, right? If we put a seed there, we want to squish it down. So plantar flexing, plantar flexion, which means that image 1.28 is actually dorsiflexion. So it's coming up. That dorsal fin, the movement is up, it's off the gas pedal. It's like that dolphin about to jump out of the water, pulls back, dorsiflexion. Very good. Just a reminder, there's 3 types of positioning on the table too: supine, prone, and side lying. Remember that sometimes the best answer, especially in the cases of pregnancy, might be side lying. Moving down to our 3 movements of the mandible, we have protraction, that is the jaw coming out, protraction, retraction. This is actually very nice to do if you do like a lot of driving. Put your finger on your chin and just push back. So many times we end up driving in our forward head position. Just go ahead. We're actually pushing the whole head back, but this actually demonstrates also retracting our jaw. And then deviation, sometimes also called lateral deviation of the jaw, because we can move our jaw laterally. Some of you might be hearing a click. So this involves the movements of the TMJ, protraction, retraction, and deviation. And a little nod here again to opposition. When we touch our fingers, it's actually considered opposition, the movement. Flexion is closing the fist, extension, opening the fist, opposition. Good job, nice. A few more movements of the body. Flexion of the trunk. So we're looking at movements of the body in the spine and the thorax. So the spine and the thorax, the thoracic region, the vertebral column. So flexion of the spine, movement in. Extension of the spine. So imagine having a big exercise ball and you extend. So you're on the exercise ball, you're kind of hugging it. And when you go into extension, you're opening that spine. We talked about rotation of the spine. So it's not medial or lateral, it's just rotation of the spine. And we can have lateral flexion of the neck, or we can have lateral flexion of the spine. We're moving in this lateral plane. So technically the frontal plane divides our front from the back, but lateral is here, and lateral flexion, go ahead and try it. Lateral flexion of the spine. Does one side move easier than the other? And this can be related directly to pathology, by the way, because as we assess a client or as they tell us what hurts, if they say, oh, it hurts when I go to pick up my suitcase or pick up my briefcase, or it hurts when I take my granddaughter's hand, we start to understand what movements of the body are causing them discomfort. Moving through to the neck, we're going to go flexion of the neck. Go ahead and flex your neck. Bring it forward. Flexion of the cervical spine. Flexion of the cervical spine. Extension of the cervical spine. Looking up, looking back, looking up. That's extending the spine. We have rotation of the cervical spine. And then again, lateral flexion of the cervical spine. Why do we spend so much time on movements? Of course, because we want to fully understand a question. When a question about client assessment comes up and they say there's pain in flexion of the cervical spine, we need to pay close attention because they're not saying flexion of the spine. They're saying flexion of the cervical spine. So we need to be familiar again with these movements of the body to fully understand what the question is asking and what our assessment of the client might be. So the occipital ridge is a part of the cervical spine. And that is right here, C1, and then the occipital ridge. Actually floats over the cervical spine. As we look down the spine, we'll see that after the cervical spine, immediately the thoracic spine has ribs. How many ribs? Put it in the chat. How many ribs? Floaters and non-floaters, all of them. Tell me how many ribs we got. And right here, we have an example of the ribs. So when we breathe, what do we got? Yes, Zoom user, you've been doing your homework. 12 ribs, right. Go ahead, and while you're typing in there, great. Charlotte, good. Jessica, yes, excellent. 12 ribs, good. What are the muscles in between the ribs called? Jot that in there too. So these are the muscles that move the rib cage contribute to breathing, right. Yes, Lynn, intercostals jumped in there. Thank you, Lynn. Oh yeah, Charlotte, guess you were there first. Yep. Nice, nice, nice. Intercostals, yes. Those are the muscles in between the ribs. So if you see, yeah, whoops, yeah. So if you see a question about breathing and muscles, you know that we're going to be addressing some intercostal muscles, right? So in inhalation, there's actually expansion. So that makes sense, right? We breathe in, we expand the chest, but it also goes up a little. So elevation and expansion are the movements of inhalation. Conversely, the ribs close, they get closer, and so the ribs go down, they depress, the ribs go down in exhalation, and they also collapse a little, they get closer. So they expand during inhalation, and they get closer, collapse, get smaller during exhalation. I want to just say one last thing about breathing. Obviously, we've got a respiratory system, and we'll cover systems of the body in another lecture. But the ribs are part of our axial skeletal system. We have an axial and an appendicular skeletal system. So the spine and the cranium are part of our axial skeletal system. All of our long bones and other bones away from the spine are considered the appendicular. But we'll cover that another time when we cover our skeletal system. All right. Another quick review as we move into our questions, and that is elevation of the scapulas. We also have adduction of the scapula, which we consider retraction. Go ahead and retract or adduct your scapulas. Bring your scapulas closer together. Yeah. So if you were pulling back, yeah, retracting. So that can be called retraction of the scapula, or it can be called adduction because it's moving closer to the midline of the body. Likewise, we have protraction or abduction of the scapula. Move your scapulas away. So move your scapulas away from the spine. Yeah. Protraction or abduction. Ab, out, getting out of there. Here you see throwing in this image, you see throwing a punch. That's protraction. That protracts the scapula. It abducts the scapula. We've covered depression of the scapula. One last movement is upward rotation. We're looking at the left scapula here. Upward rotation. So go ahead and lift your left shoulder. And what that does is it takes the bottom part of that scapula and rotates it upward. So lifting the left scap is upward rotation. And if you depress your shoulder, we're looking at the bottom part of that scapula. That's downward rotation. Upward rotation, downward rotation. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause there because we've got some questions to dissect. Yeah, all right. So hopefully some of that looked familiar. I bet a lot of it looked familiar to you. I'll bet. Yeah. So let's just pause here for a second. Any question? Well, you know what? Throw the questions in the chat if you've got them. And I'll make sure we get to them right at the end of class. But let's go ahead and move into our questions for today. Okay. We're going to start right at the top. I want to make sure. All right. Give me a heads up if you can't see the screen, but you should be seeing a question. And so we're going to move into questions that have specifically to do with navigating the body, talking in anatomical terms. So the question is, a structure closer to the back of the body than the front of the body could be described as A. Oh, can't see. Great, thank you. Let me stop the share. And we're going to do it again. Boom. All right. A structure closer to the back of the body than the front could be described as blank. Now, what we're going to do through this, I want you to just think about the question itself. I'd like you to eliminate 2 wrong answers. This formatting is not as nice as it could be, but okay, no problem. It could be we're having terrible weather here, so I might be getting a little bit of a lower signal myself. Oh, and I just remembered I turned off my video, so let me turn that back on and see if that helps, because I've been doing all sorts of pictures with my hands here. I tend to talk with my hands when I'm teaching. So we're going to eliminate 2 wrong answers, and a structure closer to the back of the body than the front of the body could be described as, and I know we want to jump right in there. Oh, here we go. Now you can see the app. Okay, good. If for some reason you can't see it, turn off your video and turn it on and see if that helps at all. But it seems as though my screen is telling me you can see. So I know you want to jump right in and answer, but I'm warning you, we're going to go through questions that have 2 right answers. Oh, okay. So which 2 will you eliminate? All right, we can eliminate. So we're talking about front and back, right? So I'm seeing an answer A and C. Let's see what else I'm seeing here. So we can get rid of C and D. We can eliminate A and D. Right. We want to have kind of a little pattern to what we're doing here. And so what we're doing is we're getting rid of answers that don't work. So a structured front and back, does that have anything to do with lateral, front and back? Normally not, right? So let's just front and back, not happening. So lateral, okay, so we've got inferior, posterior, anterior. A structure closer to the back of the body. So I'm going to get rid of anterior as well. I like getting rid of C and D. Yeah, because neither of those, we know those aren't right. So a structure closer to the back of the body than the front, give me your answer. Stick it in the chat if it's safe to do so. Oh, Lynn's already in there. Okay. Zoom user, can you see? Can you see? Oh, okay, you got it. You got it. You can see. Good. All right. Yep. I'm seeing answers that I like. That's right. B, 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 B. Yes. I like it. Shatrice, B. Jessica, B. Zoom user, B. Charlotte, B. And the correct answer is yes, B. That is correct. B. The posterior, yes, is the, oh, I shouldn't do it in red, huh? Because it's the right answer. So I'll do that in a nice big green. Green is the right answer. So posterior, yes. The structures closer to the back of the body can be described as posterior. All right, moving along. How does one describe a structure farther away from the midline of the body? Now, I know you want to jump in and answer. And these are relatively easy questions since we just talked about it. Okay. I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing. But let's get rid of two wrong answers. How does one describe a structure further away from the midline of the body? Does lateral have to do with midline? Yes. Superficial. Does that have to do with midline? Sometimes. Angular. That's not even a thing, right? Superior. Okay. Well, we know angular's out, right? So let's just get rid of angular. Good. Get rid of angular. Get rid of, I like, eliminate B and D, eliminate C and D. We definitely can get rid of this because that doesn't even, it's nothing we've even talked about, right? So letter C we can get rid of. All right. Structure further away from the midline of the body. Superior, superficial, right? Superior is higher. Superficial is lighter, right? It's superficial versus deep. If I'm superficial touch or I'm deep touch, right? Does that have to do with the midline of the body? Superior, inferior. That has to do with directions of the body. But go ahead, give me your best answer. Get rid of superior. Okay, yeah. Give me your best answer. Further away. How does one describe a structure further away from the midline of the body? So remember, we're in anatomical position. We already know angular's out. Further away from the midline of the body. Boom, boom, boom. I'm seeing, okay, Raquel, tell me, I'm waiting on your final answer. I see it though, you see it. Yeah. Okay, inferior. Inferior. Okay, inferior is actually not one of our answers, but the correct answer in this case, boom, lateral. Ooh, that's not right. Let's see. Lateral. Lateral is our answer. Why is it lateral? Because it is, we are talking about the midline of the body. We're talking about anatomical position, right? So whenever there's a question and it involves the word midline of the body, you know you've got to go right to anatomical position. Yeah. And then midline, medial, closer. Lateral, farther away. Moving along. In which part of the body does lateral flexion occur? Uh-oh, spaghetti-o. Lateral flexion, we just talked about it. It occurs in a bunch of parts of the body, right? Yeah, exactly. Saw that one on the test. Yep. I know. So in which part of the body does lateral flexion occur? A, shoulder joint, B, scapula, C, axial skeleton, D, feet. Let's get rid of 2 wrong answers. Can we get rid of at least 2 wrong answers? Lynn, I like where you're going. All right. And I'm not saying the answer right now because those people who are listening afterwards can't see the answer. Ha ha ha. All right. Get rid of Shatrice. We're going to get rid of B and D. I like that idea. So lateral flexion does not occur in the feet. Definitely not. Ooh, where are you? Does not occur in the feet. Boom. All right. And it does not occur. Does lateral flexion occur? No, we just got done talking about all the different directions of the scapula. None of them were lateral flexion, right? Up elevation, depression, rotation. No, so scapula, good. Okay, tricky. Which parts? We got A, shoulder joint. C, axial skeleton. Best answer. Where does lateral flexion occur? Lateral flexion, not lateral rotation. Talk to me. Yeah. I'm seeing the answers come in. Not lateral rotation, lateral flexion. So lateral flexion, right? Go ahead and laterally flex. Where does it happen? Bang, bang, bang. You guys are getting it. You're getting it. Boom, shakalaka. Letter C, axial skeleton. Correct. All right, hang in there with me if you can. I want to get through these questions. I know we're a little over time. So if you got to roll, you got to roll. But give me 2-3 more minutes and we'll get through these questions. Yes. And if any of these questions are challenging for you, we'll talk about them after we get through the next few. All right, next question. At what area of the body does opposition occur? A, hip, B, scapula, C, thumb, D, mandible. Opposition. We did just talk about this. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Let's get rid of a wrong answer. Give me a wrong. So what can we immediately get rid of? Does opposition happen at the hip? No, does not. Everything, like lots of lateral stuff happens at the hip, but not opposition. Rotation, but not opposition. All right. Go ahead if you've got it. What else can we can eliminate A and we can eliminate D, I'm seeing. Get rid of D. All right. So we're getting rid of A and we're getting rid of D. Because yeah, the mandible, I mean, we can clinch and that might be seen as some type of opposition, but really the movements of the mandible are deviation, protraction, and retraction, right? So that's how we describe movements of the mandible, typically. So we're looking for best answer. Now it's time. Put your best answer in the chat. Go ahead. What area of the body does opposition occur? Is it B, the scapula, or C, the thumb? Okay, I'm seeing the answers coming through, and I saw that earlier one's like boom, 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 boom. You got it. The correct answer is C, the thumb. Yeah. All right. So, settle into that saddle. We've got a couple more questions. All right. Which is a plane of movement that divides the body into upper and lower parts? Upper and lower parts. Yeah, I'm loving when you know. So when you know the answer, you can go ahead and type the answer in. But let's get rid of 2 wrong answers by using the letters. What can we get rid of? So this is the plane of movement that divides the body into upper and lower parts. So where is medial? Medial is right down the middle, right? Oh, I'm seeing Shatrice, like get rid of C and D. Okay, that's bold, because C, it's a middle thing, right? Like it divides you in the middle, but it divides you left and right. But medial does the same thing. That has to do with the midline of the body. So we can get rid of medial, we can get rid of sagittal. Good. All right. Now that we've eliminated 2 wrong answers, go ahead and put your best answer. Oh, yes, I'm gonna get rid of B. All right. Best answer. Go ahead. Yeah. Here you go. Best answer is the transverse plane. Yes, good, Patrice. Good, Charlotte. Yes. Yes, Trey. Yes, Raquel. Got it. Good, good, good. So we just talked about that, right? Top and bottom versus left and right. Midline of the body, sagittal plane, transverse plane. Good. All right. That's all I got for you. That's all the questions. We got through them. Not bad. 105. Yay. All right. Let me go to this gallery view. There we go. So today, what we've covered today is what we've covered today is we talked a bit about the mblex test. We talked about that it's a computer adaptive test, that it's going to adapt. And we will, yes, Lynn, in just a moment, we'll get to that question. The computer adaptive test is something that's going to adapt. It's actually conspiring to help you. Because if you answer a question wrong, you're going to get an easier question, but it's going to be worth less points. So they want to kind of get your juices flowing with the easier. You're going to start with moderately difficult questions, and then it'll go up or down. So that's a computer adaptive test. We talked about that in the first part of class. The next part of class was the meat. We're putting meat on the bones. We're talking about the planes of movement, the types of movements, descriptions of anatomical movement. You know what you just did? You just studied kinesiology. Yeah. And a little anatomy, a little physiology, but mostly kinesiology. Nice job. Movement is kinesiology. That was the bulk of what we talked about today. And then we moved into some subject matter specific questions. What that means is that the questions you got were reflective of what you just learned. And so you were applying your knowledge to answer questions. And we did those questions in a very specific way. We did those in a way that you would read the question fully. We read it together. We eliminated a couple wrong answers because at times they can be tricky. There can be more than one right answer. And then we picked the best answer. Yeah. And so that's some training on how to approach questions. Yes, we're answering questions. Yes, we're getting to the right answer. But what's important here is that you're training your brain on the best way to answer those questions. So I am delighted to be your instructor. My name again is Jody Scholes. I'm going to wind down this recording saying thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing what it takes to become a licensed massage therapist. For real. You know, not everybody is called to this work. And because you are here, because you are listening, because you are participating, you are sending a clear message to the universe that you're ready. You're ready to move into this type of work. You're ready to jump over that next hurdle. You're ready to change, and change can be scary. Thank you for those of you who are going out. Change can be scary, but you are standing in your truth of who you really are. You are standing in the truth of who you really are. And that is someone who is destined to be a licensed massage therapist, someone who is destined to legally put their hands on people and facilitate a space where those people can heal. So thank you for the work you're doing to get there. I'm going to sign off on the recording now, and then we're going to address about 10 questions. So peace out. And I will see you again. My name is Jody Scholes. I'm your instructor. Looking forward to being with you over the next 7 weeks. We go in 7 and 8 week cycles. So just stay tuned. If you're hearing this for the first time, shoot me a little note and we'll get you connected with the next classes or with the very next class. But peace out for now.